taxes. My bank account's empty, all my cards are maxed. And I ain't looking for no pity, I'm just stating the facts. I voted for some change, and it's kinda strange. Now it's all I got in my pocket. I bought a few LEDs, now I'm growing some trees. And it's a sweet fucking hustle, don't knock it. I told y'all before I would break the law to put food in my baby girl's belly. Cause the senator man took a bribe in hand and went and shipped my job to New Delhi. I get by, I barely get by, I barely get by. I stay a little high, I ain't gonna lie. I barely get by. I stay a little high, I ain't gonna lie. Party people in the place to be, put your hands in the sky if you're barely getting by. It's on and on till the break of dawn. Got to keep the rent paid and the power on. Yes, yes, y'all, and it never stops. I don't trust the government, I don't trust no cops. I dip and I dive and I socialize. I struggle and I strive just to stay alive. I get by, I barely get by. I barely get by.
Feeling lonely this holiday season?
Looking for little human interaction?
Do you want to feel contact in certain special places?
Then why not go through security at an airport?
The TSA.
TSA agents are ready and standing by to give you a little something extra to feel thankful about this holiday season.
The TSA.
What are you waiting for? I want to check under your testicles.
Spending time with a TSA agent couldn't be easier. Simply book a flight departing from any American airport. When selected for a full body scanner, say no. You'll be pulled aside by a TSA agent, and that's when the fun begins. And you never know who your agent will be.
It could be me. Or me.
Or even me.
But it's probably gonna be us. Take off your damn shoes.
The TSA. It's our business to touch yours.
Welcome to the Bureau of Womanhood Conformity. Independent thoughts are considered subversive because all must agree with our leader.
When it comes to women, preventative care should include coverage of contraceptive services such as birth control.
You see, if you don't believe government should pay for your birth control, you're not a real woman. Womanhood denied. If you refuse to accept that pregnancy is a punishment, you're denied as well.
I don't want them punished with a baby.
If you don't believe that abortions should be allowed for any reason, if you don't believe in aborting a child for being the wrong gender, and if you don't believe that stay-at-home mothers aren't real workers, you are not a real conformed woman.
His wife has actually never worked a day in her life. His wife has actually never worked a day in her life.
Finally, for your safety, if you oppose mandatory government health care, you will die.
They will be voting to say that women can die on the floor.
These standards and regulations were formed after our glorious victory in the war on women. Thank you for your cooperation and your conformity.
All right, and we're back here on the Conservative Blues Show, here exclusively on Conservative Broadcast Media.
Exclusively.
Exclusively, because nobody else wants us. Yeah. The right-wing renegade Rick Webb sitting over here, and my partner in crime, Mr. Kerry Shelton, sitting right over there.
Right over here.
Yeah, right over there, yeah. A lot closer than he was in the first hour, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
like
so I think that before we went to the break there, you want me to explain, just for the restaurant business, what the effect of Obamacare is going to be.
Well, I mean, not only just for the restaurant business, for all businesses, really. But the ones that have come out so far have been some retail places and a few restaurant places so far.
Right. And it's really very simple. It's got to do with what you consider to be the definition of a full-time employee. So, for the purposes of Obamacare, anybody who works 29.59 or above, basically 30 hours a week, is considered to be full-time. And if you work under full-time, then you're basically exempt because you're not a full-time employee. I'm pretty sure that those part-time employees don't count on the employment rolls either, do they?
It's not to the mandatory provision of a health care plan, no.
Well, what I'm saying is just the thought just occurred to me that if you're a part-time employee, do you count as someone who is full-time employed?
No.
Okay, so what do you think you were talking about the unemployment number going down as a consequence a little while ago? Well, what do you think is going to happen if you take millions of people and turn them into part-time employees all of a sudden?
No, well, that's a different category. That's the U13, I think.
Right. Well,
but at any rate,
that's beside the point entirely. All right. So basically, for the Obamacare to kick in, which means the fines or the mandatory having to provide insurance, or the fine because you don't, whichever comes first or whatever, you have to be considered to be a full-time employee. A lot of, like, the Darden Group had announced this, and as I understand now, they are modifying from their original statement. But there was a Denny's group down in Florida, there was an Applebee's group in New York, who basically said that starting January 1, all of our employees, with the exception of management, will now be part-time employees.
Mm-hmm.
No one is allowed to work over 30 hours a week. 29.9 is the cutoff.
Right.
Which means that anybody who was full-time no longer is.
Right, and so you're going to have all these people, all these companies are going to, in order to try to get around the Obamacare mandates, they're going to reduce all these full-time employees to like a part-time status. They're going to have to hire on new people, go through the expense of that. And, all these people so far that come out, you guys go, hey, well, why are you going to do that? Why don't you just provide them with the insurance? Or, well, you can pay the fine. Well, either one bankrupts them.
Right.
Folks don't. Most people who are never been in the service industry don't understand how narrow, really, the profit margins are, in both retail and in food service. Basically, when it comes down to it, the average profit margin for a service industry company is about 5 cents on the dollar.
Right.
That's the average margin.
Because there's so much that you think about that when you go get that cheeseburger that you might pay $5.99 for at the local Bob's Big Boy. Out of that $5.99 for that cheeseburger, not only what comes out of that, there's the cost of making the burger, meaning the meat and the bun and the condiments and the lettuce. The French fries will go on the side, maybe that big juicy pickle flab. That's just the beginning of it.
Right.
There's also paying the guy who cooked it, the guy who cooked the French fries, usually not the same person. The server who waits on you and delivers it to the table, the manager who's coordinating everything to make sure that it's going, the dishwasher who washes your plate when you're done, the power involved in opening, keeping the place going, the water, the gas, the rent on the building. I could go on to the point where, so you make 5-6 cents of profit off of that $5.99 cheeseburger. The food cost on that cheeseburger, as opposed to the real cost of it, two completely different things.
Yep. You're talking basically on a $6 burger, and the average profit margin of 5 cents on the dollar. You're talking $6 of that. 30 cents is what the restaurant owner keeps.
Right, and then
so
that gets taxed.
Yeah, $5.70 out of that $5.99 went to pay all the bills associated with making that burger.
Right, and then out of that 30 cents that's left, it gets taxed at 50%.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah.
So you're getting 15 cents on a dollar, and if you think about it, so at that point, in a Bob's Big Boy is what we were talking about there. You might make a profit of, if you own enough of them, if you own a franchise that's got several locations, you might make a profit of maybe $500,000 a year.
Right.
Okay, and out of that $500,000 a year, first, he's raising your taxes on that $500,000 because it's over $250,000. But then you've got, let's just say you got 20 employees per location, and you've got 20 locations. So you made $500,000 in profit. Then somebody comes along and tells you you've either got to put insurance on those 400 people, or you got to pay the penalty involved with not putting insurance on those 400 people. And next thing you know, you're running in the red. So this is across the board. So this is what happens then. So the bank who you owe money to, that you borrowed to be able to buy those Bob's Big Boys, raises your interest rate because you're not showing a profit. And so your interest rate went up. The government's sucking you dry for every dime that you got and some dimes that you didn't get. So if you raise the price of that burger commensurately to get it to where you become profitable again, well, who's going to pay $15.99 for a hamburger?
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
So you're basically out of business. You have just
been all 400 people with you.
You have just been effectively shut down by the president, and 400 people are without work. And I don't know, but if it were me, I would much rather have a 30-hour-a-week job instead of a 40, rather than have a no hours a week job. Because if you're already down to 30 hours, that makes it a little bit harder to get that unemployment.
Yeah. Ask the folks at Hostess.
Yeah, actually, absolutely.
Well, even the UAW, or not the UAW, the Teamsters were willing to make a deal with Hostess, but the Bakers Union decided that they would have rather than take an 8% pay cut, they'd go ahead and take a 100% pay cut.
Right.
Which makes absolutely no damn sense.
Of course not, but it doesn't have to. What was it in the news there at the beginning of the show? I know you weren't here, but she was talking about how if they'd have opened the Hostess plant in Washington State, it'd be thriving and doing well.
Yeah, because I know what it is. Remember, because I had to love it. So I watched the news before I
the legal